as humans, we overestimate our capacity to adopt change and our organization's capacity to adopt change. And so, I want to prevent folks from going down the route of, oh, we haven't done anything in procurement, right? We don't have category management strategies, and we haven't done that in 10, 15 years. And now we see the need of doing that, and we're going to do it all in 2 years, right? We're going to completely revamp the whole function. I've seen that happen a couple times, and unfortunately that leads to more hurt than benefit.
Thanks so much, everyone, for joining for another edition of the Never-Ending Climb for a stronger supply chain and procurement for companies running SAP. Today, we've got a very special guest, Joël. And Joël, right out of university, knew his life's passion, and that was getting into business and IT. So he started with IBM. It's not his fault. And he was in the SAP practice. And so if it was SAP materials management, he was your guy. And he grew so quickly in his career, he was leading the entire source to pay practice nationally. And, that just means that he loves and is amazing at solving really tough source to pay problems. So he's been digging into, since leaving IBM, almost 5 years since he started Pure Procurement. He's been digging into the toughest, best of breed solutions beyond SAP, bringing in the best of experience of procurement technology. And Joël, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, and thanks for that humbling intro.
So it's big shoes to fill. So what I was thinking about as we were getting ready for this was, there's procurement over here and there's IT over there. And sometimes these teams have a little bit of trouble talking the same language. And it's sometimes hard if you're on the procurement team or if you're in the IT team to build that bridge, because they're different subject matters. And there's a few people like you that are really strong in bringing together procurement meets IT. Can you tell folks a little bit about what makes that so enticing and engaging, and what makes it tricky?
Yeah, so I think it's, for me, it wasn't necessarily something I, out of school wanted to get into, but they were both things that came naturally to me in the sense where I'm very business process driven, or just process driven in general, where going, okay, like what are the logical steps? What are the decisions that we take to branch off into different types of activities to get to an objective, to get something done? And so that's always been my approach, coming at it from the technology side. When I was first implementing SAP MM, I was always thinking about business process management first, and then technology to the service of that business process. And when I kind of deepened my expertise in procurement, I did a strategic procurement certificate, halfway through my time at IBM, just to get more of that procurement flavor, procurement expertise. It's very applicable, right? That process thinking, going logically through, okay, well, if you're going to do a quote first, and then you're going to update your requisition, and then you're going to approve it, and the rules behind how you do that and why from a category standpoint, I found it was a very neat function in that sense, where, to go back to categories, purchasing categories, there's a bunch of concepts that you can hang processes on, and give those rules based on those concepts, like a procurement category, for example. So I think it was just, they were both things that came naturally to me, and I positioned myself at the intersection of those two, knowing that, you can develop stuff that's going to allow you to automate and get more efficient with those procurement processes.
I love it. And that idea of unlocking potential is near and dear to me. And I know that you've literally built a career and now a company out of this. And when we're thinking about unlocking potential, so much of that seems to come down to that empathy of understanding what's really going on. And in my experience, the most successful, SAP MM consultants are the ones that genuinely get the business. And maybe they can look at some ABAP and make some sense of it, but it's the business and the why that really matters that unlocks it. And I think sometimes folks get a little too excited about the technology and lose the where are people now? And sometimes that maturity is tricky. What have you found in your experience that has helped you, that you think would help others in focusing in on the why and the what matters for the procurement team to unlock that potential?
Yeah, and whether in IT or in procurement, I think it comes down to, what are the top line business objectives? What are the values, the mission of the company? How do we, as procurement, feed into that? What are our objectives, and what are our stakeholders' objectives for the different purchasing categories as well, right? So if I'm in engineering or production or sales or marketing, I'm going to have different objectives in terms of my purchasing behaviors and how my purchasing behaviors tie back into my functions objectives and the overall business objectives. And so as procurement, I need to define value with my business stakeholders based on the categories that I'm overseeing as procurement. And so we jointly define that value. And then that value, IT needs to understand for those different categories so that when we're proposing application changes, business processes supported by applications, we're maximizing that notion of value that is different in different categories within the business based on the objectives of our business within its industry, right? So it's really like taking that big picture and bringing it all the way down to what you're trying to configure in a specific solution, whether that be SAP MM or otherwise.
I love it. And what I hear in that is this fundamental belief, this fundamental idea of bringing not just requirements, but bringing value, understanding the value, understanding the why, not just an Excel spreadsheet with it must do
Yes,
ABC,
yeah, absolutely.
go IT, fulfill it. And I feel like that's one of the spots that things can get lost and misinterpreted. Can you tell me about a story just to help unpack for some folks that are listening? You know, if they're, and no judgment here, if you're early in your category management, it's okay. It's a thing. It's more common than you might think. Sometimes I hear people saying like, oh, we're so early in category management. We're just figuring it out. It's like, that's okay. That's normal.
Yeah.
Like everybody goes on a journey. Not everyone is the, Fortune 100 level maturity. But when you think about one of your favorite examples of helping somebody with early steps on that, how would you suggest they get more out of a tool they already own?
Yep.
Joel, it's so common that people think, oh, I have to go buy this, $1 million category management tool, but usually they've already got something.
So just before getting into the meat of that question, I'd just say, based on your category management maturity comment, and the business changes, right? Whether it's you're selling a division, you're buying a division, you're refocusing how you're attacking your customer market. Like that's going to have an impact on the categories themselves, and then you're going to have to adapt to that as procurement and change your strategies. And so it's always shifting and changes, and you might take a step back and have to adapt. So it's completely normal for sure. And then to address your question, so for me, it all starts with spend management, spend visibility, right? So being able to know, as a person would look at their credit card statement and look at their behavior and make changes, you need as a company to be looking at your overall credit card statement, which is what is everybody spending in the company? What's our spend profile based on our current state of business, what we're doing? And then if you have good visibility into that, then you're able to make decisions and bets on interventions, whether they be process or technology oriented, right? And one of the biggest examples or easiest examples that comes to mind that I can give you about that is I was working with a client where they already had like an AP automation tool. So invoices were all coming in electronically into the tool and being coded by coders. They didn't have any purchase orders. They were straight non-PO. So it wasn't a manufacturing firm. It was more, investment related. And so everything was coming in non-PO, and they had categorized their vendors and tagged their vendors to a specific commodity, right? So a specific
At
firm,
a vendor level.
yeah, at a vendor level. So a specific vendor would be a legal vendor. Another vendor would be a professional services vendor, right? And it wasn't granular enough because from the same vendors, if you go back to the big firms or the IBMs of the world, like you're going to be purchasing a lot of different types of services and potentially even commodities from them. And so it's not granular enough to get that statement of your spend if you're doing it at that level. And so there's a concept in procurement and in procurement systems called a commodity code or a material group for your SAP audience, where I said, like, are you capturing some of this type of information? And they weren't, right? So with a very targeted additional field in a system, and then the taxonomy that goes behind it. So I helped them design their taxonomy based on what we had as data in their spend. And we implemented it and trained the people that were entering invoices to add that additional information on their invoices at the line item level as they were receiving those invoices anyways. And it's opened up a whole new ball game for them in terms of the granularity, the visibility into the spend that they have at the correct level of granularity to be able to then inform their category strategy, get to the table with vendors with more accurate knowledge of what they've spent in the past and what they're going to spend in the future. Because all the business as well is like, hey, I want this information about my invoices, right? I want to be able to budget based on that granularity as well, right? So for 25, 50K, we were able to do that, pull it into Power BI and build some custom reports as well, in-house and get them to a completely other level of maturity. So that's the example that comes to mind.
I love it. It's the example of you have so many of the tools you need now, and sometimes you just have to use what you've got. And sometimes in procurement, it's hard to go justify that extra bit of money. And when times are tight, sometimes, the purse strings are tighter. But so if you can find those meaningful things to do, I love that example. Joel, when you're thinking about a procurement leader or maybe a leader in an IT organization that's partnering with procurement at a company running SAP, what would be something that you would hope that they can take away to help them with a powerful question or an idea to help them be their best self and make a bigger difference?
Yeah, so well, to me, the first thing that comes to mind is big vision, small execution, in the sense that you should take the time to, learn what the art of the possible is with the technology on the market if you're a procurement leader, but also if you're an IT leader, understanding and investing in your knowledge of the procurement process. And then from there, crafting that vision around, okay, well, what is our end state based on those business objectives I was talking about earlier? How does that go into our procurement policy, our purchasing policies? And then how do we partner with IT to get the pieces of those different functional areas, whether it be spend analysis, sourcing, contract management, purchasing, or P2P, right, procure to pay, AP automation, and supplier relationship management. We need to think about each of those pieces and craft a holistic vision based on where we want to go. But then when we switch over to execution, keep it at the smallest possible viable project that you can, right? Build momentum, build digital literacy within your procurement organization, because as humans, we overestimate our capacity to adopt change and our organization's capacity to adopt change. And so, I want to prevent folks from going down the route of, oh, we haven't done anything in procurement, right? We don't have category management strategies, and we haven't done that in 10, 15 years. And now we see the need of doing that, and we're going to do it all in 2 years, right? We're going to completely revamp the whole function. I've seen that happen a couple times, and unfortunately that leads to more hurt than benefit.
I feel like we're both laughing because we could probably even think of some people, and we won't name any firm names or people, but there's folks out there that would say, listen, it's going to be $42 million and we're going to save you $150 million. So this is a slam dunk, right? Let's go.
Yeah.
And that's about the point where we just kind of go, no, don't do that. I really appreciate that. Joël, you have been a tremendous influence in the procurement community, and I know it's pretty easy to find you on LinkedIn. If somebody wants to reach out to connect with you to get your help, how's the best way for them to do that?
Yeah, I think the best way is, as you mentioned, on LinkedIn. The other thing is I hold a weekly newsletter at newsletter.pureprocurement.ca. So you can find me there. There's also a chat on there, right? So like I tell people, ask me anything on there, right? And I'll respond. And if it's a good question that serves others, it might even become an article topic, right? So that's probably the best space to interact with me on a more personal level. And then, from there, if we need to take it offline on a call or on an email channel, we can do it that way as well.
Amazing. Joël, thank you so much for joining. And for all of you, thank you so much for listening. This has been another episode of the Never Ending Climb for a stronger supply chain and procurement on SAP. We'll see you again next week.
Thanks for having me, Shaun.